Chrisley not allowed to talk to Todd on Big Day. Chrisley recently celebrated her 51st birthday behind bars. Her daughter Savannah made the trip to be at the prison with her mother on her special day. Sadly, however, it was Julie's first birthday without her husband Todd in a very long time, making her special day even more tragic. Chrisley was reportedly not allowed to talk to her husband either. Chrisley not allowed to talk to Todd on Big Day. Speaking to Radar Online, Chrisley's attorney, Jay Sargent, confirmed Savannah made the trip to FMC Lexington in Kentucky for her mother's birthday. Fortunately, Savannah was able to see her mother without a piece of glass between them for her special day. Turns out, FMC Lexington in Kentucky allows inmates to have contact visitations. Per Radar Online, Savannah was able to embrace her mother on her birthday. She was also able to sit at a small table and spend time with her as long as they followed the rules of the facility. Per the handbook of the facility, Julie is allowed normal parental contact with her children while visiting. Because Savannah is Julie's child, she is permitted to give her mother both a hug and a kiss at the beginning and end of the visit. Sadly, Savannah Chrisley was not permitted to bring her mother any type of gift for her special day. She, however, did find a way to give her mother a gift anyway. In substitution of a physical item, Savannah reportedly added money to her mother's commissary. Jay Sargent tells Radar Online Julie had a very nice birthday visit with her daughter. She, however, was not permitted to speak with her husband. Limited communication. Despite being married, Todd and Julie Chrisley are only able to communicate via email. The phone system allows inmates to place calls. They, however, cannot receive calls. So the system is set up in a way that makes it impossible for Julie and Todd to call each other if they were permitted to do so. At the very beginning of their prison stint, they went through a brief period with no communication. Their legal team had to pull some strings to get them permission to communicate via email. Despite being inmates, they were granted permission to communicate this way because they were legally married. Unless their appeal works and they get out early, it may be years before they can talk to each other or see each other. Julie Chrisley sat in her cell, the cold gray walls closing in as the clock ticked closer to the big day. Her mind raced, replaying the countless memories she shared with Todd. Today wasn't just another day, it was their wedding anniversary. But this year, there would be no celebrations, no laughs over breakfast, no reminiscing about their extravagant past. They wouldn't even speak. Since the Chrisleys' fall from grace, life had changed drastically. Julie had always been the heart of the family, keeping things together with her quiet strength, while Todd commanded the spotlight. But prison had stripped her of the ability to protect or comfort her family. Their once glamorous life was now a distant memory, replaced with a harsh new reality. Today, she felt that weight more than ever. She reached for the small, tattered calendar by her bedside, circling today's date with a pencil she borrowed from the prison library. September 25th, her and Todd's anniversary. They'd always made a big deal about it, using it as an excuse to escape into their bubble of love and luxury. Even in the middle of the chaos that surrounded their trials, they had managed to hold on to this one day. But now, prison rules and restrictions loomed over her like a judge's gavel. She wasn't allowed to speak to Todd, not on their anniversary, not ever while serving their time in separate federal facilities. A tear threatened to fall, but Julie quickly wiped it away. She couldn't afford to appear weak, not here. The guards were always watching, and any sign of vulnerability could be used against her. She had learned that lesson quickly when she first arrived. Julie might have been raised in privilege, but she was no stranger to resilience. Still, the pain of not being able to even hear Todd's voice today cut deeper than she expected. Julie sat down on the hard cot, pulling out a worn piece of stationery she had managed to smuggle in. Writing letters had become her only connection to the outside world and to Todd. Though they were barred from direct contact, they were allowed to write to one another, albeit sporadically and under heavy supervision. She had sent him a letter earlier in the week, hoping it might reach him before today, but there was no way of knowing if it had. She held the paper close, rereading the letter she'd written to him days before. It wasn't much, just a few simple lines, but it was everything. Dear Todd, today marks another year of our life together, though it feels like we're worlds apart. I miss you more than words can say, and I wish more than anything we could share this day. Please remember that no matter how far away I am, I'm holding you close in my heart. I love you. Forever, Julie. Julie sighed, wondering if Todd had even read it yet. If only she could pick up the phone, hear his voice, just for a moment. She knew he was struggling too. Their empire had crumbled, and while she had always been the more private of the two, Todd lived for connection. Being in isolation, unable to speak to his family, was surely torturing him as much as it was her. Julie tried not to think about how he was holding up. She needed to stay strong for herself. She spent the next few hours in silence, her mind wandering through the years. She remembered their whirlwind romance, the early days of building their life together, and the joy they found in raising their children. The Chrisley name had once been synonymous with wealth and opulence, but now it was tainted by scandal. Despite it all, Julie knew that her love for Todd had never wavered. Even in the darkest of times, they had always leaned on each other. That was what made today so unbearable. Lunch came and went, and still no word from Todd. Julie knew better than to expect anything, but she couldn't help the small flicker of hope that remained. She had heard through the grapevine that other prisoners had been granted phone calls on special occasions, even if the rules were strict. But it seemed that Chrisley's high-profile status only worked against them. In the late afternoon, a guard knocked on her door, pulling her from her thoughts. He handed her a small envelope, unmarked but clearly one that had passed through several layers of prison administration. Julie's heart skipped a beat as she recognized Todd's handwriting on the front. She tore it open carefully, her hands trembling slightly. Julie, today is hard, but I know we'll get through it. Every moment I spend here, I think of you, and I hold on to the memories of our life together. They can separate us physically, but they can't take away what we have. I love you more than ever. One day, we'll celebrate this day properly again, I promise. Until then, stay strong. Always yours, Todd. Julie smiled through her tears. It wasn't a phone call or a conversation, but it was enough. It was a lifeline, a reminder that no matter how far apart they were, their bond remained unbroken. She folded the letter carefully and placed it under her pillow, where she could reach for it whenever the loneliness became too much. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Julie kept herself busy with her routine, avoiding the lingering sadness that threatened to overwhelm her. She thought of Todd, picturing him in his own cell, wondering if he was thinking of her too. The thought gave her some comfort. As night fell, Julie lay on her cot, staring up at the ceiling. Today had been difficult, but she had survived it. Just as she would survive the days and months to come. She and Todd had been through so much already. This was just another challenge. And though they couldn't speak today, their love would endure. Julie closed her eyes, clutching the letter to her chest. Somewhere out there, Todd was doing the same. And that, she thought, was enough for now.